They're like, guys, I have really bad news about Philosopher's Stones. Guys, I have worse news about Philosopher's Stones. Like, there is no good news about Philosopher's Stones. You might as well just sit down.
Podcasts, the 21st Century Radio Show. Two friends were hit by quarantine and found themselves bored in 2020. But they committed the one taboo among content creators. Never start a podcast because you're bored. Will they go mad? Give up? Or finish watching each other's favourite shows? Whatever happens, listen with care. For what could equal the horror of spoilers?
Welcome to the Sin and Violence Podcast. I'm Ginger.
And I'm Kara.
And today we will be doing a mostly somewhat daily recap of the series Life on Mars and the anime Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And we are sort of into the quote-unquote second season. Well, we're into the definite second season of one, and into the quote-unquote second season of the other.
Are you throwing shade at my show or your own show?
I am not throwing shade. I'm just saying, like, Brotherhood is kind of one long run.
One long show that has a bunch of theme songs crammed into it.
But it's swapped openings. It's more a commentary on the progress we've made. We have
made progress. We have made it.
We have absolutely made progress, which is very cool. So, yeah, this week we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 1 of Life on Mars. And for Fullmetal Alchemist, we'll be discussing episodes...
we're up to 17 and 18.
Yeah, there we go. Sometimes I can do basic multiplication in my head, but, you know.
I'm just trying to remember, like, you know, my mind goes, we start with an odd episode and end with an even episode, which is... apparently that's very hard for me to remember.
That is correct. But... yes, that is where we are. So, onward.
So yeah, Life on Mars. Why didn't you tell the people about it?
I think I will. Thank you. So we are into Season 2. When we last left Sam and the gang, he had just worked through his family drama, but he had not woken up / gone home / whichever it is. We kick off Season 2 with a little bit of a view of the modern day as someone is messing with Sam's equipment in the hospital and making it very hard for him to be alive.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Meanwhile, in Sam world, Gene world, that world, there has been a murder and the press is all hype about it. So the press is sort of up their butts about the whole thing, which Gene is not happy about. And as they trace down evidence, Sam realizes that the person involved is very likely a man named Tony Crane, who, much as with episode 1 of last season, is involved with a recent modern-day case of Sam's.
Oh.
Tony Crane...
I kind of... okay.
It's fuzzy, and it's kind of...
Keep going. I will bring this up later when we're in our discussion part then.
Yeah. Tony Crane is only played by Mark Warren, who, if you are a Doctor Who fan, you'll recognize him as Elton from Love and Monsters. If you're a Discworld fan, he was Mr. Tiatimey in the miniseries, and he's also... he's just in a bunch of stuff. You will definitely see and hear him around and you will recognize him. And Tony Crane is yet another of those, he's a little bit scuzzy, but the cops trust him, so we leave him alone. Sam is now absolutely set on bringing Tony down in the past, because he knows what Tony is capable of and what he is going to do, and also Tony is apparently in his room trying to kill him.
So Tony is apparently the figure that Sam flashes to, thinking that, he goes, oh, this is the guy trying to kill me when I'm having my weird migraine visions.
And occasionally you'll hear his voice in the hospital noises, and that's definitely a Mark Warren voice. So Sam is actually going through a very interesting change at this point in time. He starts out the episode by the book. Just, evidence this, that, and the other because the press is breathing down their necks. But as he gets more into the whole Tony Crane situation, he starts to get a bit more like Gene. And when I say he's...
Okay, it's funny that you say that, because what I noticed in the episode, and I didn't mention this, but what I kind of picked up on was the fact that, like, Sam is a very rules person until it's inconvenient for him. He always is like, he's like, rules, Gene, rules, make the world go round. And then if it's anything to do with his family, or like with his dad, and then with this, then Sam is like, rules are for losers.
And what's interesting, and I'm sure you picked up on this, is that when Sam was talking to Eve, which is Tony Crane's future wife, currently works with him at his casino.
And then also future murder victim of his.
Future murder victim. In fact, that is the case that Sam worked on. That has led to the future Tony Crane interfering in his
ability to live in a coma.
His ability to live in a coma. He is trying to get 1970s Eve to help him plant some evidence on Tony, to stitch him up. And she calls him out on this, and he says, "I've never stitched up anybody who doesn't deserve it," which is straight up a line that Gene said from the very beginning of season 1.
Oh, okay.
Like, it is verbatim something that Gene
No, the
said
reason I didn't see that I didn't notice that is I don't remember that, okay? I have seen these episodes a grand total of one time.
I can't remember what episode it was where Gene said that, but it's when he went to his file cabinet. It was like, here's a bunch of stolen hot jewelry. We're just gonna put this on a dude that we want to bring in. And Sam was like, no, you can't stitch a guy up. And Gene says, I've never stitched up anyone who doesn't deserve it. And
I remember that happening, but I also know it was probably in like episode 1 or 2.
It was
pretty early.
It was super duper early. But yeah, so Sam has discovered himself saying and doing things that Gene would say or do, albeit, as Ginger mentioned, it's generally when it has something to do with Sam himself. That is an extremely good call. Meanwhile, Sam has confided in Tony Crane that, I am sure you know exactly what's going on. You're standing by my hospital bed in 2005 trying to kill me. This is all a thing. And you're like a multidimensional, I don't know what his thought was, you're a multidimensional being screwing with me. So that's there. He just let that straight out to a stranger.
Yeah, I just realized, well, this still supports my theory about that Sam is dead and he's in purgatory/hell. This theory is still holding up. I'm gonna keep going back to that until I'm disproven.
So the B story, because it does figure in, is Ray has been bumped back up to DS because apparently off-screen between seasons, he's been taking good care of the paper clips and pencils. Sam is not happy about this. He's like, no, this isn't right. You can't just do this when the news is watching us. And Gene's like, well, too bad. I'm in charge, and you go find us a new constable. As they are going on, there are sort of in the background interviews for a police constable to move up to detective constable. Annie, as usual, helps out quite a bit during the case. And sort of thinking back to that last part of the situation, Annie is the one who eventually helps to find a lot of the evidence.
Annie gets, and yeah.
So prior to that, though, Sam just kind of goes, he just goes straight off, as he has done before, and he's like, I don't care. This is important to me. I know the truth. I know the facts. He ends up getting dragged up to the roof, where it turns out that Gene, too, has decided to follow up on Sam's, gut feeling. And now they are both about to get killed, along with someone else they had attempted to bring in earlier, who does get killed. And then they have a wonderful fight on the roof. So Gene and Sam take out Crane's dudes. It is pretty obvious that he is, in fact, their culprit. And Sam is unable to do a heck of a lot about this because he is relatively close to dying, thanks to all the tampering.
Future dying.
A car chase ensues. Sam, very close to collapsing, attempts to stop the car, Phoenix Wright style, with his badge. But Annie and Ray and Chris save the day with a stinger.
It's a chain with spikes on it.
It's those things you'll see where if you drive the wrong way, they'll just deflate your tires.
It's a chain with spikes on it.
And Annie calls it a stringer, and it's cute. Now, Sam is all right for the moment. And then we have the great scene where Crane decides he is going to let loose to Gene everything that Sam has said to him. Like, oh, sure, you can arrest me, I guess, but by the way, your inspector is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a future boy. from the future.
He's a future boy from the future.
Sam Tyler's a future boy from the future. And I'm in his hospital room about to kill him, and Gene just kind of has that, oh really, look. And Sam
Gene has a look on his face that says, you know what? I actually might believe you.
Sam instead turns it around and says, oh, yeah, actually, that's what Crane thinks. That's what Crane told me, is that that I am in a coma and he is in my hospital room in the future. And Annie, who has heard Sam's rants up until now, is sort of on edge through all this. But they do eventually drag Crane away to the psych ward. A transmission through the future talkie TVs that are around throughout the show point out that, oh, the guy who was messing with Sam's equipment was an escaped psych patient. So now we have the question of, did Sam change the future? Did Sam make a closed loop? Whatever happened. Mm-hmm. And Annie gets promoted to DC.
Yeah. Moving on up.
Ray pinches her ass and she slaps his, and it's... Also worth pointing out in the beginning of the episode, we have a very brief moment with a guy they're putting away, a psych patient they're putting away, who runs to Sam and says all this stuff about the world isn't what we think it is. Mm-hmm. I know what it's, yeah. So take that as you will.
Yeah. So that was the episode.
That was the episode. And it was a really fun way to come back, because now that we have sort of we have that imagery we had all through season 1 with the trees and the woman in the wed dress.
It's okay. Have you tried to hear me say when we sometimes?
Winry. Well, that's not an easy name at all. That's just no. But that's all been sort of tied up. So now we're moving on to this sort of second phase of the show where things are getting, it's weird to say this, they're getting a bit more surreal, which is saying something for life on Mars. But we're going into this whole other area. Oh, that's right. The very end of the episode. I nearly forgot, because this is important to second season. Sam gets a phone call, and usually he just listens to a doctor telling him how he's living or dying or whatever. And he attempts to answer as usual, and the man on the other end says, oh no, I know you can hear me, and I can hear you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're gonna get you out of there. You just hang out. The situation's almost done. And when Sam asks the operator to trace the call back, it is to the number Hyde 2612. So that is what we know for now. So someone or something can hear Sam and is working with him on getting him home.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at with that one. And we just had the finale yesterday, so we, and like a season opener tends to be what it is, and like we have the mysteries and all that stuff, but I don't really have a whole lot of philosophical notes to be discussing right now. Just because it's just what I mentioned before, which is the observation that Sam is a real rulesy person unless it's inconvenient for him. Mm-hmm. Very true. And what I find annoying about that is that Sam's by the book rulesiness is what's annoying about him.
It's like, Sam, I kind of wish you'd just be that way all the time.
Right.
It's, to be fair, he is the most helpful with his rulesiness when he isn't really thinking about it. Like, once in a while, he'll be that absolute, honor student, like, reading papers is fun, kids, and, this is the best part. But then once in a while, he really is, like, he's teaching them. He's teaching them actual helpful stuff, like, what do we do when we find a piece of evidence? We don't touch it.
And, we don't touch it.
And
we wait for forensics.
Yeah, they are... those are legitimate things that just didn't happen, because in season 1, they were just eating a sandwich over the evidence. And, so he is...
No, yeah, that's pretty adorable. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty cute that it's happening.
Yeah, there are ways that the rulesiness helps, and then there are ways it just goes completely off the rails. And Gene and Sam are both sort of picking up a bit of each other, I think. This had one of my favorite sort of brief moments in the episode where Gene is trying to get Sam to calm the hell down about the Crane thing. Like, entirely. and try to keep the, try to keep the press off his back. And Jean is like, well, we can't do this, and we can't do this, and we don't have any evidence. And I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah.
So it is good to see that, in a way, the better parts of Sam's rulesiness are making their way into the department as basic things. As, okay, here's a way to make our investigation suck less. Like, when Chris just put his fingerprints all over that drain pipe that one time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so they're not doing that anymore, where it's like, okay, we figured out, we're looking for this, and now your prints are all over this pipe, Chris. Good job.
Good job, Chris.
Good job, Chris. Chris is doing his best.
Just...
we almost got this a Sam and Annie kiss.
Yeah, what bullshit was that? I demand a redo show. Give me a fucking mulligan on that. I was so annoyed about that.
Close. You get so invested. I mean, it's like, she's trying. She is really trying with this crazy boy. Like, he'll be like, he's a future man. He's a future man from the future, and he's gonna kill me. And she's like, let's go to the movies, Sam. And let's go for a fancy night. He's from the future, Annie. I'm from the future. Sam, movies. And then, like...
Annie is just proof of the whole thing with women that we just want boys so we can fix.
I hate how true it is. I hate how...
Oh, maybe if we go to the movies, I'll fix the crazy future man.
And that is absolutely not us mocking Annie. She's precious.
No, it's us making an observation about ourselves.
making a very true observation about ourselves, that it's like, oh boy, that's a crazy fella. Maybe if I just really love him.
Maybe the power of love will make him sane.
Yeah, it's that Dayton.
But like we know Sam's not crazy.
Right.
So yes, I do want the power of love, Annie. It's just not gonna fix the crazy.
But yeah, they continue to be very sweet, and it's nice to see her step up.
I will say, like, on top of the sweetness, I really did like that. If nothing else, even if Sam wasn't going on about being a future man and a man's trying to attack him in his coma bed, I do like that. Basically, when, like, I was waiting for Sam to kind of, like, pass out or just something to happen because of how severe they interpret it in the show as, migraines when Sam is having future vision of being killed in his bed. Mm-hmm. But, it was very nice that every time something like that did happen to him, and because Annie was around for at least more than one of them, I believe.
There was one point, and I think it was after the almost kiss, where he just straight up went blind for a minute.
Wasn't it like? Oh wait, that was after the almost kiss. I thought that was two separate scenes for some reason. But whatever the case is, because the one with the almost kiss was in the lunchroom.
Yeah, he was talking to Jean, and then we had that great shot of just the lights going out in the hallway.
Yes, that was it. And what I did notice, I'm observing the cinema, was the lights went out, and the last light to go out was the elevator that had Crane and his future wife in the elevator, and that went out last. And I was like, Mm-hmm. Look at that foreboding circumstance right there.
The camera work and the lighting in this show is so good.
But, like, that happened, he kind of stumbles around, and Annie finds him, and that's when he's like, I'm blind. But then the one in the lunchroom it was really weird because it was like an earthquake happened.
Yeah.
Like, he was so severely anxious, he induced an earthquake and threw himself away from Annie.
It's such a shame. It's such a shame. But they were both going for it, man. They were both going for it.
Yeah. This romance is gonna happen.
Remember that I have literally written an article where I said, I want everyone to watch this show, and the way I'm gonna convince you is with the ships.
Yes, I know. So I have that article in my back pocket. Like, that's there's the goals right there.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to happen, and I'm going to be very upset with you if certain things don't work out because of dire circumstances, like death, maybe.
I'm not going to say a word, man.
Yeah, I know.
So that is where we are. We have begun.
Oh yeah, and Annie gets a promotion, and it's really great. That's the other great Annie thing. I know you mentioned that earlier, but I also just want to emphasize that it's really cute that Annie is now promoted, and she's part of the squad.
She is part of the squad, and she's gonna get to wear, like, actual outfits from now on. So we get to see her 70s fashion full time now.
Speaking of the 70s fashion, my other very important observation of the day was, I think it was near the end when Sam is in the street and he pulls out his badge to do an Ace Attorney move.
Yes.
And I was like, is Sam in heels?
Yes.
And, yeah, Sam is wearing some, along with his absolutely kicking bell bottoms, he has, like, 70s boot platform shoe things going on?
He sure does.
I really should look up how tall John Sim is versus how tall, I'm sorry, I still can't remember his name.
Philip Lannister.
Philip. I remember the Philip part. I can't remember his last name. You guys, everyone needs easier names, like John Sim. 2 syllables, both names, done.
I'm just gonna consult the Oracle while we're here, because
I'm curious, because part of the thing when you have 2 actors of different heights is that oftentimes you will disguise one actor to be taller by having them wear lots of heels and or be standing on boxes during scenes to help compensate for their height. You know exactly who I'm referring to when I'm talking about this.
I know exactly who you're referring to.
And so this is making me curious. What is the height between those 2 men?
Well, John Sim is a strapping 5'9".
Okay.
And Philip Glenister is 6 even.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why he just looks so much taller.
They put him in these very and I saw them talking about this in the rewatch tweets, that they deliberately put him in bulkier, bigger, I was
gonna say, I observed the fact that he looks physically bigger, and I know it's also because he's wearing lots of layers and all these kinds of things, so I understood kind of that aspect, where especially John Sim is wearing, he's a very he's like a very slimmed, sleek look to him, yeah.
Yeah, they apparently like really, and I noticed this when I was watching, I can't remember, it was a movie, Calendar Girls, that came out a few years prior that Glenister was in, and it was that thing about the old ladies of this women's club who made the nude calendar to raise money for their club. Very cutesy little movie.
Wait,
actually.
He was in that movie?
He was the photographer. he was the shy boy photographer. From what I understand of his career, Gene Hunt was really against type for him at the time. Like he was in historical dramas, and again he was in Calendar Girls, where he was sort of the awkward boy.
I will tell you, I can verify the Calendar drama thing because I was looking up reference pictures, because, dear listeners, I have caved already and drawn some Life on Mars fan art, and the first one was of Gene Hunt to get like some practice in there. When I was looking at when I'm looking at reference images, I remember I saw some of like him in period dress, and I understand we're talking Britain. Everyone does period dramas. At least for at least 40% of their career. I get it. But
you cannot be an actor in England and not do at least one period drama. Everyone's been on Masterpiece Theatre over here.
Yes. So like I saw that and I was like, interesting.
Literally everybody. But yeah. So Sim is about 5'9", and they listed like the other Life on Mars actors. Marshall Lancaster is 5'7".
Marshall Lancaster is Chris, yeah.
Yep, Kohai is 5'7".
Yeah, that makes sense. And I obviously understand that like you can't exactly control height when you're casting actors.
No, but it's just interesting to see sort of how that stacks up.
Yeah, I love seeing how tall actors are, because it's always very interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting. But yeah, Sam does have the little... Whenever I think of the heeled boots on men, I think of Robert Downey Jr.
Oh.
who is a very small boy. Mm-hmm. And whenever he was in Marvel movies, they had to put him in little heels.
I love that because like Gwyneth Paltrow is taller than him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's he's a little yeah.
Are you looking up how tall Robert Downey Jr. is?
Because I cannot for the life of me recall. I think he's like my height. Because it's to the point where like they had to intervene. No, he's 5'9" also. So okay,
really?
5'9" is apparently the heeled boot height for actors.
Apparently 5'9" is just really short to me. I am a short person too. Mm-hmm. Hang on, let me look up... Now I need to look up something, though, for the sake of Robert Downey Jr.
So last time we went off the rails for Full Metal Alchemist, and here's where we're going off the rails this time.
Gwyneth Paltrow is also 5'9".
They just needed him to be taller because...
They needed him to be taller to try and help some shots, probably, is what yeah.
Because, man.
Yeah.
So yes. That is where we are. with life on Mars.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about Fullmetal Alchemist now?
Let us talk
Question mark? Alright.
Exclamation point.
Our 2 episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist were episode 17, Cold Flame, and episode 18, The Arrogant Palm of a Small Human.
That's such
FMA has lots of titles like this.
I love them. I love them.
Yeah, in episode 17, long story short, the interesting thing that happens is Barry the Chopper breaks Ling Yao out of prison. And if you're wondering why Ling was in prison, it's because he got caught in a previous episode, and they were like, "Where's your import papers, sir?" And he goes, And so Ling is in prison because he illegally immigrated to the country.
Good Lord,
and
Ling.
Barry is just kind of there, and to bust Maria Ross out of prison. And Maria has basically been rammed through and found guilty. Yeah, she's found guilty of murdering Hughes.
Yeah.
And, we, the audience, are like, that's a lie. But the thing going on is that they basically rushed her through, got her declared guilty, and even the newspapers have been advertising it. And the investigation crew that is Mustang's group, so Mustang and Fullmetal and Hawkeye and Havoc are all like, that's weird that... the weirdness being that it's already out in the press, kind of a thing. You gotta go through your proper channels, and they're suspicious that proper channels have not been followed here. So Barry busts out Ling and Ross from prison, and again, not only that, so when Ed and Al went to the Fifth Laboratory, and Al was outside fighting Barry, the suit of armor that gave Al existential angst, they got found out by Ross and, what's his name? Brosh, I want to say, who's the blonde-haired guy that's with Maria.
Yeah.
And they're like, ah! And they shoot. So Barry's been shot once in the hand by Maria, and because Maria can't tell the person interviewing her where that bullet is, cataloging where the ammo is, they're like, suspicious, you're guilty of murder. And so apparently it's really easy to be accused of murder, when... So Barry has this weird thing, and I think we've realized this with Hawkeye too, is that Barry just loves his strong women who shoot him, I guess? Because he has a crush on Hawkeye, and now I think he has a crush on Ross. And, they bust him out. And Ed and Al run into them. I forgot why. Sorry. All you need to know is that Ed and Al run into them. Right. And, they're like, oh, hey, sup, Ling. Sup, Barry. And then, oh, Ross, what's up? We've heard you've been found guilty. Crazy. So she runs off, and then she gets confronted by Mustang in an alleyway. Cut to, we see a big explosion, and Ed and Al then, run over, and before Mustang is this charbroiled briquette of a body. And so Ed is under the impression that Mustang has just incinerated Ross.
A charcoal briquette of a body with Ross's name tag on it.
Yeah, Ross's little name tag bracelet. And everyone else is like, oh yeah, they're like, oh wow, Mustang, you went really ham on this, and it's because Hughes was your best friend, but man, you went kind of unnecessarily ham, right? And Mustang's defense was like, I was just told we could do whatever the hell we wanted, shoot to kill, we could do what we needed to. So then the body is confirmed for hers, because they're like, wow, the body was so messed up that all we could find were dental records, and Ed and Al are really pissed off, and Major Armstrong was also there, and he gets told by Mustang, you should go on a vacation, go to the east, I hear the women are beautiful out there. Wink.
Wink.
Wink. Next episode is the Arrogant Palm of a Small Hand. So basically, this episode kind of undoes the other episode in a way. I'm looking on the wiki right now. Apparently, this aired August 2nd, 2009 in Japan, and it's my birthday episode. And so Armstrong realizes that Mustang was telling him something. And he just grabs Ed, and he's like, Ed, your arm is messed up. We should go to Risenbull. And Winry's sitting there like, but I'm here. So basically what happens is Armstrong and Ed are off to the east. Alphonse and Winry are still in Central. And out in the east, they meet up with another one of Mustang's gang, Breda. And then they go to the desert, And I'm trying to rectify this in my mind. I know that... So the Alaric's hometown, Risenbull, is apparently on the eastern edge of Amestris, the country. And as we know, Risenbull is lush, fertile farmland and sheep, and then desert.
Yeah.
And I realize this stuff happens in real life. Otherwise, we wouldn't have two conflicting environments going on in real life. But
Right.
I just thought that was kind of funny. Where it's like, oh, they're in this beautiful like rural countryside, and then bam, desert. Apparently, the desert's like 2 miles that way.
Mm-hmm.
And in the desert, they're traveling, and in the desert we don't really know why, and they stumble upon the ruins of a place called Xerxes. And there's not really an answer for what happened to Xerxes. It just kind of collapsed basically, and now it's in ruins. Ed finds a mural that has a strangely familiar carving on it, if you remember the opening shot of the first opening theme song.
Oh gosh, that's right. Yeah.
And in there, though, they find Maria Ross is there. She's
Yay!
alive.
She's
TLDR,
okay.
what happened is Mustang. The Mustangs group figured out there's no way that she could have killed him. The newspapers definitely railroaded. This is ridiculous. The newspapers are reporting this. Something's up here. And so what Mustang decides to do is they break her out, and then Mustang performs a not really human transmutation. He makes a fake body from the ingredients that you use to create a similar thing to a human body. And so what he ends up doing is, so that he encounters Ross in the alleyway, he pulls this weird flesh corpse out of the dumpster, charcoal briquettes that flesh corpse, takes her bracelets, puts it on the flesh corpse, and tosses her in the dumpster, and she's escorted out by Havoc waiting for her. And then she basically gets smuggled out of the country. So I think it's one of those things where what we've learned is the homunculus group basically framed her to set her up. And so the homunculus group is thinking, oh, Mustang took the bait. Great. Now that he has his retribution for Hughes, that'll get him off our tail. So we don't have to worry about Mustang anymore. And so now, they're all on board with that. Ross is out of the country. And while in Xerxes, apparently some Ishvalan refugees are living there in the ruins. And what they learn is that... So Winry's parents were doctors, and we know that they were killed prior to the series beginning. And what we basically learn is they were treating Ishvalans during this fabled war that all of our military people took part in, and they were killed by an Ishvalan that they were saving while they were being field doctors. Back with our military crew back in Central, Fallman and Barry are playing chess. And then one day, Lust and Gluttony decide they're gonna... Actually, let's maybe scratch that. Lust decides, oh, we're gonna stick something on Barry in this group because he's being very annoying. And they get attacked by this weird, crazy, wild man going nuts and rah! And as it turns out, it's Barry's body. So Barry's soul is in the suit of armor. Barry's body is a rotting body, which you don't really notice until they point it out later. They're like, hey, no wonder he smells, and there's like flies around his feet.
Yeah.
So he was very insulted that his body is now occupied by like some feral animal or something like that, or like a lab creation. And so now they have to fight. They have to... Barry the Chopper is very excited about getting to chop up his own body.
It's that sort of theoretical thing of like, you could have a ghost in their own zombie.
Okay. I don't know that, but I remember when I was in college, one of my art teachers, we did some project with portraits of ourselves. I remember my professor had this theory. He prescribes to the idea that if you met a clone of yourself, he's like, I just think you'd start making out with yourself.
I'm so glad that wasn't the case in Full Metal Alchemist.
I know, I'm just saying, one of my professors has this theory. He's just like, yeah, I just think you start making out with yourself if you found like a clone of yourself.
I'm glad to find out your professor's kink. Okay.
So, at the end of the episode, we're left with they're in this fight, and then also Hawkeye has been positioned in a tower, kind of keeping an eye on Fallman and Barry and Havoc. And Gluttony has rocked up behind her and is threatening to eat her. So as is custom, I think that's kind of it.
That's where we left off.
That's where we left off. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, with the charbroiled quote-unquote Maria thing, I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, that body very conveniently has her bracelet on it, with her name on it, and I was like, so that's one. If you show me a corpse with personalized jewelry on it, and otherwise unrecognizable, it's I immediately go, the person is safe somewhere and this is a fake. The other thing being, I know that people don't hate Mustang. And
Right.
I feel like if he had absolutely decimated an innocent woman, even out of a mistaken need for revenge, the fandom would not look as kindly on him as they kind of do.
Yeah, this is true. This is
So
true.
I was kind of like, no, she's got to be okay. I was still kind of messed up. I was like, I'm gonna be really upset if he really did do this. I was like, I'm gonna have one, I'm gonna be upset. Two, I'm gonna have questions about the fandom. But
The only thing I was happy about was realizing, since we watched 2 episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist, I was happy thinking to myself, thank God the next episode this gets resolved. I didn't want to have to, like, sit on this for 24 hours. You know, if the episodes were broken apart differently, I'd have been like, ugh.
that kind of would have sucked. But yeah, no, that was a good pairing of episodes.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much I'm enjoying Barry.
He's so much... And that's the thing, I think we were saying, like, oh, but what if he's a good serial killer? And you have to realize he's a serial killer. Like, there's a reason he was jailed and killed and then put into a suit of armor body.
It's like I don't like him as a human being. One, he's a serial killer. Two, he psyched out Al. And I still think about that he was basically psyching out a kid who already does not have a genuinely corporeal form, and the kid's already going through enough shit. But it's sort of like, I don't like him, but I do find him extremely amusing.
He's very, well, that's the thing, that's the difference between, like, when you condone the actions of a person versus you just think the character is really good. So he's a funny character.
He's an absolute piece of shit, but God, he's funny.
The difference is, like, for instance, like I mentioned previously, I don't like Envy, the homunculus character. I don't, genuinely. Yeah. I'm on a project right now, and I filled out a form, and I was just like, I will, if I need a pinch hit anywhere, I will draw literally everybody except Envy. Which, the plus being, I am the one person who thinks that, and so I bet you there are other people who will happily draw him, but I was not interested. But the thing is like...
I'm praying you have to pinch hit for Armstrong.
Oh, I think I'm probably pretty okay, but that was actually one of my top choices, was doing an Armstrong thing.
Nice. So...
I'm happy with what I got. I'm very happy with what I got. But good. Armstrong was one of my top choices too. So, like, that's the thing. Like, Envy I don't like, and I don't find the character fun, is really the thing. Whereas, like, Barry is, obviously I don't condone his actions. However, he's at least, here's the difference I think also, is we really don't see Barry's actions on screen. We just are told these things.
Right.
There's a huge difference with Barry between this version and then the original, the 2003 anime series.
Huh.
In that one, Barry was introduced in, like, this kind of like a full-length episode that was, again, one of these things where it's a really long, drawn-out episode that would not fly in this anime series, or it'd be like 5 minutes in this one. So it's Ed and Al are in Central, and Winry is there, and the plot of the episode is like, oh, there's been some mysterious kidnappings of young women in Central, and so there's this butcher lady that they keep running into or they go to or whatever, and it's revealed. So Barry in this version kidnaps Winry, and then Barry gets revealed to be this kind of like wifishly thin blonde who can cross dress.
Huh.
Who cross-dresses to kidnap women and then kind of like tortures them and then murders them and chops them up. So in that version, and with that backstory, I know Barry's a very nasty, bad character. He's a freaking psychopath in that version because it's very much built up. And then also, of course, he kidnaps Winry. In this version, not only do we not get that, I don't even know if that was actually in the original manga. I'd have to look back on it, but I'm pretty sure that was kind of like one of those things that's like drawn out for the 03 anime. But in this version, when Barry's body shows up, he's jacked.
I'm looking online at what Barry looked like in the 03, and he's got like the snatched cheekbones.
Yes.
And like, yeah, boy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are pictures that are like 03 version versus 09 version. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God, yeah.
So yeah, it's like totally different. But then on that same plane, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I think he's a nasty, weird, sadistic character in the original. But in this version, he's fun and interesting.
Yeah, he's weirdly entertaining, and whenever he's like, I'm bored, I want to chop someone up,
You're like, tee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
she seems nice, I want to chop her up, she probably wouldn't mind.
Right.
She seems fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that sort of thing of, God, you're hilarious, just don't come anywhere near me.
Yeah.
What was the other? Oh, so a very random thing that'll probably amount to nothing, but it amused me, and I think I mentioned this to you after we watched it. So the place they went was called Xerxes.
Mm-hmm.
Amestris is the name of the place they're from?
Yeah, it's the name of the country that the series is taking place in, yeah.
And that's interesting to me because Amestris was the name of the wife of King Xerxes. And it's probably just a, hey, I like history, and I'm just going to pop this in for giggles, because I don't know enough about the show yet to know.
Right.
And basically, the historical records of Amestris are hotly debated, because it's like, they said stuff like she was super into human sacrifice. Okay, no one was doing human sacrifice when she was alive, so you're probably making this up. The story I read about her was like, Xerxes cheated on her with their sister-in-law, actually. I read a little more about it. It wasn't just some lady, it was their sister-in-law. It was his brother's wife. And so Amestris, to make a statement, went and sent her guards after their mother-in-law. Not the mistress, not the brother, the mom. And just like mutilated her. And when the brother saw this, he was like, oh shit, and he tried to run out of town, but the guards got him. So that's the historical version. Handel also did an opera about Xerxes where it was a much more gentle. They were about to get married. Xerxes fell in love with someone else. Amestris disguised herself as a man so that she could still be near him. And then at the end, they made up and got married. So it's...
Yeah, so one thing I actually want to know is, too, just to point this out in the summary. So the ruins of Xerxes are actually important. It's not just like a random place, obviously. I think you can probably tell that.
Right.
But one of the things that gets brought up, so Ed and Armstrong are traveling with Fu, who is one of Ling's bodyguards. So Ling has two. Fu is with Ed and Armstrong, and the other one, Lanfan, is with Ling, still in Central. And when they get there, they're talking about Xerxes and kind of like talk about these things. And so Xerxes is kind of this fabled, the origin of alchemy and alkahestry, which, as I discussed, is the alchemy of Shing. And so, their stories they're just comparing notes about the origins of their two magic science systems here. And so Ed says, well, alchemy was started, they say that a traveler, how did it go? A traveler from the east came, for it to be the east? Yeah, a traveler from the east came to Amestris and taught them alchemy, and that's how they have alchemy. And then in Shing, they're like, oh, we have a traveler from the west who came and taught us alkahestry. I've probably ruined the suspense here by probably talking about this. But, I mean, the importance, though, is that Xerxes is, like, this mythical origin point of both of them. Which is also why you see the, this mysterious rune circle carving thing that we saw in the opening of the opening shot of the first opening. So we don't see it now in the second opening, but we saw it in the first opening. So I hope you remember that, kids.
Yep.
So... There's that going on. The interesting thing about this, again, I'm just going to make one more note about comparing the O3 anime, because I was reading about this recently. Xerxes actually plays, like, no significance in the O3 anime. Because, again, we're at that point where they were totally diverging from the manga, and they actually, Xerxes is only mentioned, like, one time when Ed and Al are reading a book, and it says something like, it was like in regards to Philosopher's Stone, and that's it. Like, it's brought up once and then never again. So, and it's crazy because obviously Xerxes is kind of more important this time around. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Shing, for instance, never existed in the O3 anime. Just, that's one of those things too. And Shing, obviously, the country, its characters more so play an important role in this anime series. So... Those are just my random in this corner segment of Ginger talks about the O3 versus O9 anime.
That little group just did come out of nowhere. It's like Ed's looking around. It's like, hey kid, sorry, you're a political asset now.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Ishvalans are just like, hello child, you're gonna be our asset now.
And it's like, nothing personal. We're kidnapping you. Just, look. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
But then, like, oh wait, hang on. These people were good to us, and he knows them. It's okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm glad it worked out that way.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we're delving a little more into that side of things. I really like that they're bringing in, when they started bringing in the concept of alchehistory, it's like, I love that because that is such a lot of good world building. The idea that this stuff exists everywhere and different places will have different understandings of it and different versions of it.
Right.
That's very real and that's very cool. Mm-hmm. That's something that I like a lot, and the healing aspect of it, because
it just shows another side to it. Because especially, I really don't think in like Amestris' alchemy, there really isn't healing that you do with alchemy. It's actually, if you like Dr. Marco, who they visited a handful of episodes ago. It's actually like the fact that he is medically trained. It's kind of pointed out as like is a unique trait.
Yeah.
Because this is not a thing you really do with alchemy.
Yeah, it's alchemy, the power that exists in this world in general is shown to be simultaneously creative and destructive. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So seeing this other side where it's just this little girl coming along and drawing a little circle and throwing down little knives and fixing the cut on your leg, it's like, oh, wow. That's a bit nice.
Oh, how nice for him.
I am actually very curious about these little...
all the world building and things going on.
Any world building that's not, we're gonna kill people and turn them into a magic rock is kind of...
I was waiting for you to, and I'm like, wait a minute, you just called out the show. And I'm like, oh wait, no, we've seen that. Like, we've known that's happened. That's not like you predicted anything.
No, that was there. That was straight there. They're like, guys, I have really bad news about Philosopher's Stones. Guys, I have worse news about Philosopher's Stones. Like, there is no good news about Philosopher's Stones. You might as well just sit down.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong.
There's rarely good news about alchemy in general.
But it's really cool. Come on.
Oh, it's absolutely super cool. It's like that, it's equivalent exchange. You're super cool, and in return you sin real hard.
I think part of it is that we see, because of how the show is, and also we're following a character who's a state alchemist who's friends with a bunch of other state alchemists and military characters. We usually are seeing alchemy in the context of fighting, and offense, whereas we know that it's not always true. We've seen, remember in the episode where they went back to Rush Valley and Alphonse is like, I can do alchemy with just clapping my hands now because I remember seeing God, aka truth. Like, what Alphonse is doing is he's fixing up the town. So we are aware that alchemy can fix things and, be more, I don't know, constructive. We just don't see that very often.
That bit where Al was like, hey, I can do alchemy by clapping my hands too. And Ed's like, well, then what's the point of me anymore?
Yes.
And no offense, Ed, but at the moment, good question.
I was flipping through my manga volumes of Fullmetal Alchemist, and there was like a four panel comic joke about what if Ed and Al's situations were reversed. If Ed was the one in the suit of armor and Al had the automail.
Oh, everything would be over so much more quickly.
It was just basically like Ed in chaos mode while he's in the suit of armor, being like, I'm taller than everyone, and just going on a rampage, basically, as Alphonse sits on the corner being like, brother, don't! I'm so sorry, everyone, for my brother! Brother, stop! Alright, let's do our roundup now. What was our best violence of life on Mars?
So I think we're skewed on this, but I think we can understand each other's point of view on it.
Yeah.
My favorite violence was the rooftop fight. Mm-hmm. Just because I love like I was telling you before, I like any action scene where clearly there is a plan between two people, but they have not communicated it. Mm-hmm. That is how you know that they are now a team. Mm-hmm. And the last time Gene and Sam had a plan together, they were whispering it in the newspaper office. Yeah. And now it's just like, oh, buddy, can I get a cigarette? I just need a smoke. And he's like, oh, yeah. It's like they they know.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you had someone thrown through a window onto a convenient pile of boxes, which is always cool.
Yeah, it makes me think of Future War from Mystery Science Theater, which is always a good thing.
But I also absolutely agree with your best violence, which is...
My best violence was very early in the episode. It's when they're going to investigate the crime scene of a violent murder thing that just happened, and the press is hounding them, and Jean just, like, picks up one and throws it. I was just like, oh, same, Jean, same.
It's like, excuse me.
It was so... I liked it. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Chef kiss.
Chef kiss.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote that down. That's the very first thing I wrote down on my post-it note here was best violence, Jean throwing the press, and that was like 2 minutes into the episode. I'm all done.
This is Gene Hunt with Beat the Press. And Sin.
So the best sin. Here's my version of the best sin. This one actually falls on... It's partly me and partly Mustang. Okay. My best sin was when Mustang pretended to be killing Ross, and then me not saying anything to you when you're kind of, like, angry and confused as to what's happening.
I think I was angry and confused, and then I kind of stopped and went, hang tight.
Right, and I didn't want to say anything, but
absolutely.
for, like, that, like, the few minutes when, like, there's the confusion and anger and upset emotions going on, and I'm the one sitting here like, oh, I can't say anything.
No, that's not a sin, though. That is the right thing to do when you're watching a show. Honestly, it was the right thing to do, because imagine if I had been watching and be like, it's okay, senpai, she's out in
fine. She's out in the desert.
So, like, where's the tension now? But I will say that
What was your sin?
My sin was actually, like, semi-related to that scene.
Okay.
And it was not as a huge sin, it was just a weird sin.
Okay.
My sin of the episode was Mustang just keeping a box of burner corpses.
Okay.
It's like, he just pops it up and I just grab one of these buddies and...
No, he doesn't keep a box of corpses. He makes one.
It looked like a box of corpses for a second. There
was you mean like when they're in the alley and he opens up the dumpster? Are you saying like that's when it looked like he had a box of corpses?
Mm-hmm. I guess I was just so in the moment.
I know.
And for some reason, instead of him just making... like a low-key burner human and stowing it, for some reason it came across to me as, okay, we're in this alley, I'm just gonna go to my stash here.
it was actually cheaper for him to buy him in bulk. Like, the cost of burner corpses is so high when you
do appreciate the low-key, it's like a lower level sin. It's like, you're gonna do human transmutation? Not really.
Not real human transmutation, Brita. Calm down.
It's like, I'm gonna stop just short.
Mustang hands Brita, like, a list of, like, ingredients to go buy, and it's stuff like, it's like pork and ammonia and all this stuff. And so he's like, this is like the ingredients of a human body. Are you gonna do human transmutation? And Mustang's like, shut up, you dumb bitch. I am not gonna do human transmutation.
We leave that to the real sinners.
We're not the protagonists of this series.
It's like, well, what about dental records? 1 tooth.
Yeah.
I mean, I can fake one of Ross's teeth. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, that's, although as a secondary, I'm sure that the sin element will roll out later, but there's just something about Barry fighting his own body that I'm like, there's a part of me that finds this really cool and intriguing, and then there's another part of me that's like, this is screwy.
You're like, this is the part of me that's saying that something is messed up and wrong somehow, but I also don't want to acknowledge that part of me.
It's like, this is messed up, and yet at the same time, Barry is probably digging it, so,
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sitting here like, this is messed up, and Barry's like, whoa, it's me! I'm gonna get that body back, and I'm gonna kick his ass. It's like, well, if he's happy, I don't want to rain on his...
Let him have his fun.
I don't want to rain on his parade. He's had a hard time. He's been cooped up inside. He just wants to chop people up. And now, he can take out his aggression. So.
Yeah.
All right. So that is where we stand for the week.
For the day.
For the day. I keep saying week as if...
I know, this is definitely not weekly. It would take way too long to do weekly.
All right, so that is where we stand for the indeterminate amount of time.
There we go. That's the ticket.
Until next time, I am Kara.
And I'm Ginger.
And this has been the Sin and Violence Podcast.
A podcast of equivalent exchange.